Hi guys, I'm Carly from Carly's Creative Clay. On the top of the hour I'm going to show you all how to make a hoodie from polymer clay and talk about making clothing from clay. See you then soon. Bye. Hi guys, welcome. I'm Carly from Carly's Creative Clay. Just in case you're wondering, I know my glasses haven't got dragons on this week. I've taken them off to fix them up a bit, and they should be back on my glasses by next week. It feels weird not having them, but there we have it. Quick update on what we made last week, well, over the last few weeks. The lizard man, we got this far with him, he's baked. So over this next week I'm gonna start looking at adding some colouring to the skin with little different dots of clay, and we'll work on the spikes on the next week. Now for this week I have been asked by someone to help them learn how to make clothing. Really nice guy. He's doing polymer clay. He's doing something called a stop motion film. It's basically the same idea as a flick book but with film. So you take photos of your model in very minute different poses, and when you run them all together it looks like an actual moving picture. I think that's how Wallace and Gromit was done. So he's got his guy made, but he wants to make a hoodie jacket for it, and he's not sure how to go about that one. So if you have anything you want me to show you how to do, just get in touch with me and ask, and I'm happy to stop the project I'm working on and spend the next week doing a video, well, making a live stream for your question. So in order to help me make this hoodie, I've got my Action Man doll. Got him from a charity shop. There's always kids toys. I've got a Barbie and an Action Man. I got them for 50p each, and it's just so that I've got a human figure. Usually what I use it for is to show me size comparisons and a starter guide to where I'm putting in all the muscles when I sculpt my own people. But because I didn't have a person on the go that I was making already, and I didn't want to spend this week sculpting a new person just to make a hoodie for, I'm going to make one for him. So first stage of it all was doing a bit of measuring, and what I did was I used baking paper and held it across, and what you're looking to make is the sides to go down under the armpit, so halfway. Hi, lovely to see you. And the shoulders at least halfway up over the top. Oops, let's hold that under the camera. Hello, welcome. I'm showing you all how to make a hoodie because I got asked how to do this. So this is what we're doing. We're making a hoodie for this Action Man doll. And the starting point was a template for the basic shirt. And you want it to go, whatever your model, at least down to that armpit line. Let's move that arm out of the way. Down there. And at least across the shoulder. But if you see the one I've made, it's slightly longer in both of those dimensions, because then that gives me extra I can trim off and a bit of wiggle room.
Yvette says, evening Carly and Auntie.
Hi everyone. Right, so that's the basic template for him, and because we're doing an open shirt, I've done the same thing but only half. So you're with me so far. So they're your core templates. Now if we were doing things like trousers, you would do the template of the legs like that. So if you're unsure with what your template needs to look like, look at the garment you're trying to make. Look online. Ideally, if you've got one yourself, like an actual hoodie, take it out the wardrobe and look at the different panels they've used to sew together. You're basically using that, and you're going to make a similar thing, but you're making it out of sheets of clay. So now you're onto your sheets of clay. So what most people do when they're streaming, they come along and go, and here's all these beautiful sheets of clay that I've already made. I'm going to do a very quick on this one to show you how you get to that, even with a 4-year-old £10 pasta machine. And a couple of the little hacks I've got for it. So first off, start with a rectangle the width you want. Try not to go too close up to the edges of the pasta machine. Make sure your bottom that's going into the machine is level and you pinched it to just give it a good edge to start feeding into the machine. Okay?
It's basically a miniature version of dressmaking or hoodie making.
It is. It really is. But you haven't got to sew seams, but you have got its own problems. And the problems that you got is that you've got a thin sheet of sticky clay. So first thing I do is I make sure that the handle's up to the top and I push down, and once it's at that down point, if you're going to go and pull it up, that takes a lot more effort than pushing down. So what I do is once it's down to the bottom, I take it out, flip it over, and it's back at that top position, and you're not working against gravity. You get quite quick at that. Now, no more than 3 of those half turns before you go underneath. And I'll put this on its side to show you. The clay underneath it's because it's got solid sides, it kind of concertina folds. So because it's starting to do that, I get my finger under it and flip it so that it's facing forwards now. It's released either back behind it or forwards because you can see it better, but that stops the fold. So every 3 turns down, come underneath, unfold the concertinas and make sure the bottom's stretched out. We only got 2 more on that. So whoop, and taking it out, you've got to be careful because it has folded on itself, that when you pull it apart you're not going to make it look too scruffy. So I'll put this to one side and then I'll show you some tricks how to make the clay look better than it looks currently.
Says, at least invisible mending is more effective on clay.
It really is. So because mine is an old cheap machine, it's put ridge lines in it, and if I hold it up close you've got tiny little holes and scuff marks. If you spend a lot of money on a machine you don't get that. In the first 2 years of my machine's life I didn't get that, but I'm going to show you it doesn't take a lot to bring that back to a perfect sheet. So first off, those ragged edges, no matter how much you spend on your machine you're going to get those. So I trim them off straight away because I don't want to forget and end up cutting my design too close to that line and having a ragged edge. So that's that off. That's the little surplus bit there, don't need that, it's just going to get in the way. Same with that bit there, and trim down the bottom.
That's a fabulous colour. Is it a blend or direct from packet?
Oh, it's a direct from packet. Let me just get you the name of it, so I've got it right here. This is the turquoise number 32 Fimo. Okay, and to me it just looks like a light blue. Right, so we've now got the edges immediately looking good. Let's get that blade out of the way. So next thing I'm going to do is take some tiny bits of that off clay, and anywhere where I've got a tiny hole I'm just going to put a little pinch. That's only 4 places. There we go. And then you can literally just smooth it in with your thumb, and it vanishes. All these little crease lines, again, just rub them in with your finger. If you've got a palette knife, you can use that, but I find that that tends to put more score marks in than it actually takes that in the end. I just go over with my thumb and just get rid of it all, and you end up with a perfectly smooth sheet. So just because it's rolled out and it's looked a bit on the scruffy side, don't mean you've got to keep screwing it up and repassing it through the machine and getting yourself frustrated. See, this is all back to good. Few creases there, that looks fine. Right, see, smooth sheet. Few ridge lines, and if you want to get rid of those, you can come in with a palette knife, and that just goes over slightly harder.
Jane had a fleece in that colour some years ago. I made him
cool.
Captain Barnacles out uniform out of it. I presume she means Jake.
Yeah, that's so cute.
CBBS.
I am not so up on CBB stuff anymore, but it sounds like a cute idea. So you can see it does put a score mark in when you use a palette knife, but again, if you just run your thumb over it, that all vanishes out nicely. So you can get your smooth sheet back. But the last trick I'll tell you on this, don't try to peel it off like that, you'll just rip it when you've been working on it like this. Turn your sheet over onto your glass table, slightly tap it down, just enough so it's got a grip. Fold the corner over and peel it back like that, then it's released. And you've got a good sheet. If you're seeing both sides of it, you can flip it over and get rid of any blemishes on that side, but I can't be asked to do that because we're only going to see one.
I miss Octonauts.
I've truly never watched an episode of Octonauts. I know my nephews are all absolutely besotted by it because I bought Octonaut toys for Christmases and stuff. There we go. Right, so that's how you get your perfect sheet even with a rubbish pasta machine. Now, just get my blue clay out of the way. I would say technically it's possible to do these very thin flat sheets with a rolling pin. You're going to be there for a very long time and it's going to be uneven. Maybe you can achieve it. Me personally, I've been at it 4 years now and I've never achieved this level of a flat sheet from a rolling pin. The other thing I'd say is people are good with using sheets of clay that are from the finished setting of the pasta machine. I am absolutely rubbish. It folds and sticks on itself and I end up with a complete mess. This is on notch 4 out of 6, so somewhere high end of the middle. Just makes it easier for yourself. So I'm going to start out with the back. Getting the arms out the way, we're going to get one of these sheets and we're going to make a back panel like so. Place this on. Let's find one that it fits okay. If it's slightly too small along the top edge, that's fine because it was oversized.
I've said it's a pastry maker's skill. Have you tried turning that piece sideways, by the way?
What, like this? Yeah, that does fit better. You are right. You're going to have to pull me up if I do silly foggy things because
It's not
I'm
silly, I
in the
just
middle of
thought it was
virus
nice
at the
the way it
moment. So what I do is I get the straight lines with my tissue blade, my rigid one, like so, and then I come in with my craft knife, get that blade facing away from me, especially whilst I'm this foggy.
Hattie Life says, used to be something we could all do. I presume she means pastry makers.
Pastry making, yeah, I've done it. I wouldn't say it's my biggest excellence. I'm a much better sponge maker than I am a pastry maker. But the thing with it that always lets me down is I'm quite a hot person. So it's hard for me to get cold hands. Right, I'm just literally cutting around this as a template. Like so. Now, if you're doing a vest top, you just need 2 of these front and back and join down the seams. If you're doing a shirt, you can do the full back, the 2 halves that I'm going to show you, and then put buttons on and put a little pocket on and do a little rectangle which are diagonaled slightly at the end, and that will make a good collar. So you can turn this into all sorts of things. Long sleeve tops, because this is going to be a long sleeve one. I'll show you how to do sleeves. So it's a good template to get started with that basic shirt design. Right, have I done the tops there? Nope, because that would have been useful. There we go. Right, we're down to that. Get all that excess out of the way. Now, template off, over to one side. I always find rolling your paper off is much more safer than trying to get the clay off the paper, if that makes sense. You've got to be careful because can you see it wants to stick to itself. But you're going to line that up.
You're demonstrating this on a plastic doll, but
yeah, I'm demonstrating this on a plastic doll,
can't go on your own.
but that's because that's what I've got. Now,
It work just as well on a statue.
It's better on a statue.
And then you can cook it.
Yeah, then you can bake it. On a plastic doll like this, I would have to take it off to bake, which you couldn't do. So this is really just me demonstrating. If you see it, I'm trying to line up the shoulders and the armpits, and it is still a bit big because my rough guide is rubbish, but I did that on purpose to show you that once it's in place, you can come in with your knife. Just
I tried really rolled pastry some years ago. Game changer.
it really is. I
Not
love
that I
that
use
stuff.
pastry very often.
Love it. And can you see I'm just taking off what I don't need whilst it's in place, so you don't have to worry so much about your template being perfect. But the thing I would say that's a problem with using polymer clay to make your clothing for a stop motion is that where you're going to keep moving the model underneath, you're more likely to rip the clay. And I'll show you once I made this dude's top properly, you're gonna see what I mean when I try and move it around. So I'm just cutting that line in down the side like so, and like so, so you can literally do it in place. Right, there we go. We got his back in fine. It looks like a cape. Yes, you're right, Jamie. So we're going to do the front panels now. What I tend to try and do is move the arms forward like this and just
obviously with static statue,
lean it on its back. If it's a static statue, it will still hold. See, up on its top, but leaning it on its back, you're more likely to get rid of that flowing shape. And that's the other good thing about leaving it slightly too big, is you can get some really good creases that look far more realistic for clothing. So sheet number 2, and we're on to the front panel. We need 2 of those, which is why I've cut out quite a few strips of plain blue sheet. So let's try and line it up with what I got there already, save me having to cut too many lines. And again, we're just cutting out around that, and this one will probably still be too big for him, but it gives me a good place to start to trim it all down. Now if you're much more meticulous than I am, you can measure up the paper so it's perfect, but on one of my earliest human projects I spent 3 days measuring up the paper, and the clay I cut still once I put it in place weren't right, and I had to go in with a blade. So now don't bother, I get it roughly right. So let's see, can I get the second panel out of this? Nope, too thin. I might be able to get an arm out of that though. So I'm just rolling it back like so. See? And you can do it and leave your clay behind on the bit of paper to reuse some of that extra side. I'm just going to do the second one because it's easier to get them in place when you've got them both cut, but it's pretty quick. So the other thing I would say is do one item of clothing and then bake it, and then make the next item of clothing, because then you are less likely to get rid of the shape of it by holding it weird and smudging it all. And also, if especially if the items of clothing are different colour, if you end up with staining, it's easier just to wipe it off a baked surface than it is to wipe it off a raw one.
I had no idea it would be so much like dressmaking.
Yeah, because you really, if you think about it, the item of clothing that you're making, you want to make it look like a finished item of clothing. So the easiest path is generally following what they've done already. Except they find it harder to trim it down on a mannequin than I do. But I've got more risk of ripping. So I think neither way is easier than the other. Doing it with cloth and doing it with clay, which is why some of the most prominent doll makers from polymer clay actually invest time and learn how to make dolls' clothing from cloth. And then you can change it and do things like that. So we're getting that armpit lined up. So like that, I would say. Now, as you can see, we've got an overlap going on there. So what I can do is fold that over and then come in with my craft knife along that line, just cut it out. Come on, off, don't stick. There we go. So you can see they're pretty well lined up. We're going to have to cut the bottom line. That's why I didn't bother so much about it. But I'm just pushing along that join line because you don't want it to vanish. I mean, you can. Oh, this is a good thing. We've got a little tear turned up, so I can show you how to fix tears in situ. But I'm making it look like a sewn bit of cloth together, so one bit isn't a lot higher just by tapping it down. But can you see it's now made that shirt stick to the doll? So if you then wanted to try and change its positioning, you're really going to have to start levering it off and possibly remaking it. So I think you're going to have to use it on a stationary figure. So that little tear, I made a little bit of clay. I'm just going to cover over it like that. Come in with my rubber tip tool, just smooth out the edges and blend them in without tearing it more.
Yeah, sounds good.
So be gentle and find the right tool. And the right tool quite often is your finger, but if you can't get in there, you're going to have to find something with a smooth edge. So
It does look like you've still got a tear there, huh?
I have still got it a little bit, mainly because I don't want to spend 20 minutes working on that, and I'm not even going to use the outfit. But you spend a bit more time on it and you will get there. So I want to do that shoulder. What I'm going to do is cut a line like that, and that's taking out that extra top bit.
Did you cut through both?
I didn't cut through both,
Just
that top bit, and I don't like that little triangle there,
the neckline, yeah.
so I'm just going to come in and bring that neckline. Whoop, I'll show you. See, I just got rid of that little triangle. I might even bring it down here.
If you can show us a comparison of the
There
two
you go.
sides.
Right, can you see?
That's so one side is straight. The
So
other
one side is straight and the other side hasn't been done yet. So you can really trim it all in when you're there. And again, I'm pushing that seam down so it looks like it's quite level. And you can fold top back a bit. You just got to be a bit careful. So if I had a vest top underneath, I can then sort of do things like that with that side, where I'm just sort of changing this.
Sorry, after I said, Jake just asked me if you can change clothes made of polymer clay. I said no, and he said wait for it, Jamie. So it's like curse of binding. Yep, you can't take your clothes off.
Yeah. So I'm just trimming that up. Oop. And I would come along and make sure all the lines are properly smoothed in and get rid of some of those scuff marks, but it's going to probably bore you to tears to do that. So I'm coming in with the other side, and I want to fold this side back a bit to make sure that I'm not going to stick them on top of each other. See? So coming in like that and sticking that on. Now we've got to work out coming under the armpit like so.
Might be easier if you lay them down to do.
Get that with a bit of a wiggle, and then
The vet says Action Man is not wearing a face mask.
I know, when I shared the advert about me making this, I had someone commenting like, you're sharing a picture of a guy without pants on. It was on an art group as well. It's like, really? Really?
Says lol, Yvette.
So
It's
I'm
an
trimming it.
Action Man, there's
I
nothing
know,
sexy.
I know. Her kids' toys must be literally bound in mummy wrap. That's all I can say.
Possibly they have painted on trousers.
Yep, sharpied on trousers. I mean, there's all sorts of ways to do your life, but you're going to have problems on a sculpting site if you've got issue with the human form, because it's something a lot of people want to tackle in their art work.
You're sort of right off the
So,
bottom.
whoop, I'm just lining that up,
Oh,
and
no, you
then
can't see it,
I'm
it
going to
looks
come and do that shoulder lining. There we go.
I think the shoulder line on that side is too far forward.
It's a bit far back. Yeah, we can come in again
Forward a bit.
There we are.
Yeah, okay, we can see that. Thank you.
Just roll it off.
Can you see the
See?
preview window?
Hmm?
Can you see the preview window in front of you? It should help you line it up if you...
And just get that neckline where I want. Right, so we now got a jacket going on.
Would it be better if I move it, the preview window, so you can see easier while you're...
No, we're
folding
fine.
stuff?
So we got the jacket going on.
Yeah.
Now we need some sleeves and we need a hood. So, again, clear the decks of all the rough bits. And what you're going to look to do is get the arms in the position you want before you put the sleeves on.
Naturally they would be if it was a fixed model.
Yeah, and that again is another thing about doing it on a fixed model as opposed to doing it on a model that you're going to move. So I'm just leaving that to one side so I can get another bit of clay that's got enough on it for some arms. Let's put that to one side.
You could do mini episodes of making polymer clay face masks for your older creation. I bet it would. and then
Yeah. Right.
Eva says, Action Man does not have to wear pants, but at least he has his dignity with those blue coloured briefs.
I know.
Sheesh, in these times, as a mask is a must, pants are debatable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are in strange time where it's more acceptable to break wind in public than cough, because whatever you're coughing about, it's not hay fever or asthma or all the other things that can cause a cough that's not COVID, that people look at you like you've literally passing the plague, because you might be. But it's, can you see, just from moving it, it's starting to tear the cloth.
It would go viral, pardon the pun.
I know, right? Now, I'm making these slightly longer than the arms because we're going to join them in on the shoulder. I'm already getting breakage around the bottom of that shirt because of the fact that the Action Man's hips keep doing that, like a swivel. If it was a static piece, none of those problems happen, those tears. But here we go, some rectangles.
Yeah.
That should be wide enough to go around his arms. So
I think even the polymer clay.
Let's have a look. That's still far too long.
If it was made of polymer clay for, say, stop motion,
Probably.
it reflects at the same rate as the coat, not
About there.
like that.
Right. Yeah. So these are decisions you've got to make about your own piece. Whoop, let's line that up. Get the sleeves the same length or it look really weird. The hood was the bit that took me a while to work out, but I got there. It would have been easier if I just looked it up, but you know me, I never do that. I just got to figure it out by playing. I'm coming in under the arm first because that's going to be the hardest bit, so you don't want to put your join line on the underside because you're then trying to join in under the armpit. Does that make sense? So I'm coming in, holding it upside down like so, and I'm going to get a tool and just start to push it into place under that armpit. This is by far the fiddliest bit, is getting that clay in place, whoop, lying up the side and not crinkling up on itself. It's so annoying. Come on, you can do it. There, that's what you want, a little fold over like that. Sorry, I will show you once I've got this laying a little better. You want a little lip joining onto the rest of your... I would cut one that's too narrow. Goes so well when you do a test run, but I can show you what to do if you cut it too narrow. which is always a thing in this world. So like that, you can see we've got a little triangle and the wrists are too long. But again, it's pretty easy to fix. You come in first off where you want the length of that wrist to be.
Hearty Life says, fold enough washing and you don't have to think too hard about fabric shapes.
It's a whole different kettle of fish when you're making it. I have a lot of respect for tailors. Is female tailor still a tailor? It is, isn't it?
I presume so.
So, see, I'm just trimming down to where I want. Whoop. Like so. And you can come in on that triangle and just add
It would have been
a triangle of clay.
smoother if you...
It would have been smoother if I measured it out and didn't do that, but it's all fixable. See? Coming in, another bit of clay, like that. It's best I make all the mistakes on screen, so if you come up against the same mistake, you can see how I tackled it, rather than me doing an absolutely smooth, perfect running tutorial, which is what I aim to not actually do. I aim to try and show you all the flaws you might come up with. So I'm just smoothing in that bit I've added, like so, and then I can come in and do the line under the arm. That is such a scruffy joint there. You can come in and just smooth it all in using your tools, and it's, can you see where it's moving like that? I keep getting that tear in there. It's so annoying, but that lip makes it so much easier to smooth in that top join. So it's worth fighting your clay for a bit just to try and get that in place. Right, now you can come in with all sorts of tools and just get to work on getting those lines out, but I'm not going to spend too long on it, but you can see the idea. Yeah, so we've got the jacket, we've got an arm. The other arm is exactly the same process, but I'm not going to do it because you've seen it once. Let's do the hood. What you need on the hood is, and again, all that round there, I just blend it, sorry, all that bit that's joining there, it's so easy just to blend it all in and make it all look like one piece. And you can come in and, if you want, smooth out all the joints and then come in with a palette knife and put in joins and creases that you want. You can spend some time with a tool like this and just put in some folds into the cloth and creases where you want them. But again, you're fiddling and risking tearing of the fabric, so you've got to be gentle. You've got to come in very delicately, but you can do that, and it is just worth practicing before you go on to your finished item. So the hood, you're looking for a semicircle that is a whole lot bigger than the head you want to cover. So big semicircle like so, and I'm doing a little bit on the sides so it can join. Let's see what I mean. When you roll it off the paper it tears, but since this is all the scrap, that's fine. Then this is the trick to it. Where you want the curve over of the hood, you're going to come in and cut a triangle so, like so. Now, come on, stick on. Let's take this off. And be careful that you don't tear. So I'm trying to make sure it's clung well enough to the table that I didn't tear it when I removed the triangle. Okay? Like so. What you're going to do then is you're going to match up that triangle, and if it's not enough of a curve, you can come in and cut it as a bigger. It depends on what you're trying, how deep a hood you want. I'm going to come in and take out a bit more. Whoop, there we go. But when you match up those two lines, you get a hood shape. And you've got to come in and do it carefully by pinching like so. And I had a look on a hoodie and it had a join line like that across the top, and that's what gave me that clue. So do you remember how fiddly it was to join the arms into place? Well, you're about to do something just as fiddly getting the hood into place, because you've got to line it up. And how I tend to do it is put it over the head and then come along that bottom edge and start to join on the extra. So, like so. But you've got to watch you're not tearing. So, like so. Through here. Like that. And you're in with the hood. It's a little shorter than I would have wanted, but again, if you take time and measure it up, then you can bring this and start to really carefully fold it back into a hood position. Sorry, I'm off the camera. Just really gently folding it back so that it's laying like a hoodie would, like so. Whoop. See, and you can spend time fiddling around getting your positioning how you'd like.
Fold the hood sort of flat.
You can fold it flat, you can have it creased up. People wear their hoodies in different ways, so you can do that with it and flatten it. You can leave it a little bit more cupped out. Depends on what look you're going for. And just come in and make sure it's all joined in properly, and you smooth down any of those collars that you don't want. But I like that collar line that a lot of hoodies have, that thin line across there. So yeah, without me taking a whole lot of time and care on it, that gives you an idea of how to make your hoodie, and it gives you the basic process of how you can start to build on clothes. Now, the one thing I would say is with shoes, the thing that tripped me up was I didn't know you make the tongue of the shoe first, and then the side panels, and then the toe cap, and then the base. You try and put the tongue in at any other point than the very, very start, you're going to have a real hard chance and mess up all what you've done. So, pro tip for shoemaking there. But with that all in mind, I hope this was helpful and it gives you a bit more confidence in clothes making for your models. I hope you all have a really good week, and we will get back to our lizard man next week. Okay, so speak to you all then.